That's it.
And back, horizontal. Okay, cool.
Back to vertical.
Back. I'm going to put it like that. Okay, great. Oh, right. We will, if I go so far back, I'm going to disappear in the light. Okay, cool. We will bow in and we'll start. All right. Okay, great. Onegaishimasu. Okay, good. We'll just loosen with a little bit of jumping. Work a little bit kind of one side, just loosen up the arm one side as well. Great. Come back into the center. So that pulls through the hands a bit. So that the toes find the ground. Allow the heels to really hit the ground. And just work your way out to the side. Pulse in. Just slowly kind of raise in. Up, like that. Yeah, to the top. To the top, so work your way down. And extend. Good. Going to rolling. Loosen the arms. Okay, going to the wrist, just rolling one way. And change. The elbows. Just wipe across the face. Oh, that's cool. And changing direction. Just releasing out the hand. Away. Rotation for the other, making fists. You're just extending out, find the kind of back fist. Yeah. Spreading the elbows away. A little bit of a back fist, a little bit of kind of drawing the bow. Double back. Double. Oh, you can do this as well. Do a double back. Try a double back fist. So you do like one here and one here. One back and one to the front. One back and one to the front. We'll work a little bit the same. And then you've got low CD. Good. We're going to the side stretch. Just go into the side this way, so like you're making a double fist rolling out, and you're really extending the fists up, pulling them back to the side, drawing them over the sideline. And then play with this one with a slight rotation, so you're kind of rolling out and extending out. You end up with a kind of slight. You can do this with a fist. You can also do this with a kind of open hand. Slight injecting the fist one way. Structure. Great. We'll just loosen the hips up. Circle in. Change direction. Sticking the hips one side and the other. Good. We'll do a few kicks and loosen the legs up as well. So just start with getting the leg in the ground. Just kind of start with like a lunge position. Both toes pointing forward. Just go with the knee kind of raising it, placing it, raising it, placing it, raising it, placing it, placing it. Just really shifting the weight under the ground and raise and snap it back. Raise and snap it back. Ground in the leg, in the floor. Good. Let's see the other leg, just working the knee again. It's ground underneath. And just loosen the hip out a little bit, just kind of roll it through. Okay, roll the leg up and then just kind of press it out into that sense. Almost like you're gonna kind of walk down into the leg, but without shifting the weight. Just kind of press it out and then roll it back. Bring it up, press it out, roll it back. Just getting the hip to kind of roll through that front. Balance through as you do it. Keeping the knee and the leg a little bit unlocked. Keep the leg in the ground. Right, we do the other side. Raising it. Balance. Oh. Okay, good. We'll just extend out the back of the legs, so kind of open and focusing on the front of the hip. Just kind of roll it out and extend it out. Roll it, kick out. I think it's like a donkey kick, like a kind of, but just with the leg straight. Okay, so then we'll bring the leg into it, bring the leg up to the back, just focus on the ground underneath. Leg extend out through the heel. On the other side. And then similar kind of thing, roll the leg up and then extend it out to the back. Find the leg, extend it out, bring it back. Roll it up, extend the body out, bring it back, roll it up. Nice. And then the other leg, raise up, extend out, find the kick. Oh. Balance on one side. Different. Okay, shake the leg up a little bit. So we'll just start a little bit. We'll do a little bit of KOKYU work, and then we'll go into some atemi work, and then we'll do a little bit of weapons. So just start with the hands. Just the sense. Just press the feet down to the ground, and just play with this idea of kind of rolling down and kind of extending into the ground. Let the weight settle and rolling the forearm. You on one side, just release and settle. So see if I can move the camera, find another space. Let's see. This might be better. Let's see.
I think we've lost Michael.
Yeah. Oh,
One way or the other.
Okay.
There he is.
Failed experiment. Failed experiment. I'm gonna try and put it there. I might go portrait. Might be able to see. Okay. I'll do it from there. Is that okay?
yeah.
Okay, cool, great. So just go to this now. Just think about go to, and you've probably gone to the other leg. Go to the other leg, but just think about this. I'm kind of spreading them. The best thing with this is think or if you can actually do this on a wall, but obviously. Let's see. I'm not going to move the camera again, but imagine you're actually doing this down a wall. So if you imagine the wall here, and then think about just rolling and pressing into this way. So the tendency, oh my internet, man. The tendency in this is to push out with the arm, but think about just rolling down the elbow in a sense. So no movement forwards. In the sense of that if you think of the wall as a contact point, as if you're just kind of rolling the forearm down. So you can also the other nice exercise with it, or just a nice kind of thing to play with, is play with the opposite hand. You've got the lead hand, just play with the other hand, just kind of on the center, and so you just can feel what happens here where the center basically rolls also down. So this kind of double kind of roll of the kind of forearm into the hand, and the roll of the hip in the center down into the feet. So that's nice. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if you think you don't know where hakama is, right? If you think about wearing a hakama, or if you think where the hakama ties, you've got like the belt, and then you've got these 4 belts on the hakama, right? One of the key belt is the one that kind of goes across the hip here. So there's one of the belts of the hakama kind of cuts into the hip here. So what you try and also play with this as an idea, which is like that this hand, which you're going to do it with the front hand, but feel that it's like in that crease of the hip, and that part of the hip kind of folds and creases over into the hand basically. So it's basically this hip. Bring the best way now to do it is think about you're opening the hip, you're opening this space up so that this is kind of flat, and then here it's kind of folding and closing into it, as if I'm kind of trying to trap the hand with the hip and the top of the thigh and the hip. So that kind of, yeah, that's it. Hello. Portrait.
Who's that?
It's Bernie, Catherine, John. Holding. Hello.
Michael, I do see a small difference in clothing. Serena all packed up. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Now watch it when you do this. Watch it. This is a small detail, but like watch the difference between if I'm in this position. Watch that the hip doesn't pull out to the back. So you can also do this fold by pulling the hip back this way, right? Now this is like that. Oh, not a great position. This is like that. So the hip's actually pulling back and the body's going forward. Now, in a sense, if I do that with weapons, everything's going to kind of split out, right? And it's a classic position that we have in our style. That it's a classic posture that we need to kind of work against because that kind of posture comes up quite a lot. So think as you do this, actually, that it's more of a screwing motion down in a sense. So just allow this hand now to like pass from the hip or from the top of the hip down to into the groin in a sense. Now the movement in a sense is like this, like a kind of screwing motion into the front hip. So the hip actually engages. If it goes anywhere, it goes forward rather than like pulling back. So the sense that the hip actually spreads into the feet and then can kind of extend out into the ground. Obviously, one of the images with rootedness or groundedness is obviously like tree roots and all this kind of stuff. So that sense of like an extension down and like a spreading out. But it's like, I just think about, in a sense, like the toes from the hip, from the hip basically working through the knee into the heel and then like spreading into the toes, and that contact point being able to roll the feeling basically into the ground, sinking into the ground basically. Yeah. So just feel now as you go into it, bring the front hand back in. you can play with that with the backhand in the sense it can be on the center, it can be on the hip. You can also do it on the back hip because that hip's also involved in it, right? But just feel that you kind of sink and settle into it, and then just give yourself a little bit of movement here. Imagine again, if you're doing this against a wall or a person, that you connect in, and then feel that you could kind of apply a little bit of weight into them or a little bit of pressure into them. So just work with this both sides, but feel that you kind of sink and settle in. And then imagine how would I apply pressure to that? Or how would I add weight into it? And it doesn't need to be a lot. It's not really a big movement, but it's just the sense of that I just feel like I could kind of bite into that contact point with the ground as a pressure point. Just play with it a little bit. Yeah. So. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. I mean, in a sense, like there's nothing really special about ground contact, right? And it's like it's stuff we do all the time. But if the best example of this is think about like pushing a car, which we talked about like before as well. It's like if you think about getting in that position where you're going to push, everything engages, and then the movement comes, right? So just think about as you come in now. We don't use the only difference with us is like we don't use this as a push, right? We use it as a bladed movement, right? But think about that, like I'm going to push a car. I get extend into the ground, I reach in, and then the whole body presses from below, right? So you extend into it, find it, and press from below. But just feel that. It doesn't have to be a big movement. It's just like, what do I need to do to recruit the whole body, basically? How do I recruit the whole body and use the ground to do it? Like that. That's it. So again, kind of very simple exercise. But again, it's something you can do with a wall, something you do with people, but it's just that feeling of find the ground, hip engage, hands extend out, and then sense that everything's just sunk in and boom. Just a gentle kind of pressure out. Yeah. So yeah, great. That's it. Yeah, that's it. Perfect. Great. No, that's it. Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay. Very nice. Yeah, great. Perfect. Good. Now, if you're doing it in a sense, that kind of image of pushing a car, really do that. Bring yourself back into this feeling, and again, where you can kind of roll the elbows and the forearm down. So in a sense, if you think about weapon work, whatever we do, apart from a few kind of rare occasions, I always want the elbow to be kind of rolling down, right? So that the sense that the shoulders are kind of shrugging down into the back, and then that the elbows are down, and that the front of the hand, the back underside of the arm can really kind of like slice in as a contact point. So think about now as you do this. Now you can bring the legs into it. Think about kind of roll. If you think about this like the first figure you would do with the bottom, like you roll up, this becomes big so that the palms are up, and then just think about rolling in it, finding that contact with the ground. So you kind of open out, and then you roll it in. And again, you can do this both sides, it's the same. You open out, everything big, open, expand it, and then you roll and wind the structure in. So and you really want to be in this case, really winding a spiral down through the forearm. So that kind of motion, really a lot of forearm work in a sense. If it just play in this case with you've got like open, close, play with like in this area where I kind of roll gently a little bit further down each time, and I want to feel that the hip is really communicating with the hand and the forearm. Now, if you do this in a kind of constant way, what you should feel is the forearm start to kind of burn in a sense. It starts to really work a lot. So I start to just gently work my way in and out of that position. Basically. And I want to all the time keep that contact and you can move the feet with it or not, but the key is like, yeah, hips communicating to forearm and hand. So, yeah, yeah, great. Great. Nice. Oh, right. Oh, thank you. One more hand. Thank you. Okay, cool. Now, so we'll do a little bit of striking work, but look at some parts of the system where we use strike. So one of the classic examples in this case is like a 𝘭𝘠𝘢𝘵, where the inside of the palm is basically going to spiral up and up towards the chin, right? So we use this in sometimes sword taking, but basically in a 𝘭𝘠𝘢𝘵, where we have to go to the chin and then extend the head up basically towards the ceiling. And this is a classic, although we use this as a throw, this is really a classic. If you look at Chinese arts, really like an uprooting movement. So the idea is to really uproot the person away from the ground. And you're doing that with a setup, which is like you're pressing from the back leg, that point into the ground, and this extension out through the hand. So just feel now you've got that 𝘭𝘠𝑢, that kind of spiral, big spiral that we were doing here. Now is a much more of a linear movement, but this pattern is actually in that motion. So technically the arm's traveling linearly, right? It's going that way. It's going that way. But there's that spiral path still happening through the forearm, like here, and also corkscrewing into the legs. So it's like back foot, front hand. Yeah. So I'm not going to sit, but I've got 2 sticks. What I did, if you think about this as a ground. I don't know if you can see this Joe right there. Okay, think of this as a ground pad. The Joe in the ground there, and then there's the hip in the center, and then the hand on the other end of it. Right now, you want that path to be linear in a sense, or you want it to be connected through a straight line. If that's kinked, then the power is going to be more dissipated, right? So if you think of the hip as the hinge in the middle of that, you want it to at that point basically engage and press, include into the hand, right? So that becomes almost a straight line force. So think as you do this, think of the hip as that point of the hinge. Now if I play with doing this wrong in a sense, so I like pull the hip out and do that. Now in the center I create this kink, and the power's going like there and then there, and it kinks in the middle. But what I really want to do is that foot can engage through the hand. Now, in a sense, that it's not quite true with the sticks, but it's a useful thing to think about this kind of linear pathway through the body. Yeah, so again, just play with both sides a little bit. The key is like, the key for us in a sense is like, if we're always using spiral work, is how to take that linear, in a sense, this linear motion, which can be done very easily. And especially like a strike towards the head, it's very simple in a sense. But I want to still maintain that sense that I'm kind of coiling and spiraling through it. And that's going to be the one that's, in a sense, a bit harder to resist in terms of the movement that's passed through the body. So think of it spiraling up and taking the structure, rather than just the kind of simplistic way, which will be just like a hit towards the face. Yeah. So we'll add a little bit of movement to this. So if you think of this, you can do 𝘭𝘠𝘢𝘵 with this. So the classic one from here would be that you go out to the side, you like cut this down, and then this goes towards the head. But there's a few 𝘭𝘠𝘢𝘵 which actually use this movement. But think in this case, again, kind of sword work kind of work with the hip. The first move is going to be like a slice out, like you're going to slice with the sword, and then this hand's going to kind of roll up with this. Now that leg becomes the stick in the ground in a sense. So it's about how do I roll the weight through and extend into that movement here. So the steps now are slice out and then a roll through that leg. A little bit more tricky in terms of movement, but it's just a matter of finding the ground, and then the whole weight sinks into that front leg and roll through and underneath it that way. And just think about this. Think about this as an uprooting. We kind of use this in a way. I like take the stretch and then I press them down into the ground. But the essence of it is a kind of projection away actually. So like that, I find the ground and then I roll through the hip in that case there. Yeah, nice. It's like a slice out and a press through. So, yeah, very good. Nice. Yeah, good. Nice. So the main thing to watch for this also, watch in other people when they do this, is as in a sense, if I can quite show. I don't know if you can see my feet here, but have the sense like, watch if I come out here. Now, as I press through, my weight leaves this leg, I do that, right? So that the back leg comes out of the ground, and then I try and fix it by pressing it down, in a sense. But I don't want to lose the ground at all with that leg. So think as you do this, as you come out, you've got that, and then the weight sinks through the heel, and I use that just totally to sink me into the ground. So at that point of pressure, increase into the body, which is the press through the head, your back leg is really in the ground and not floating off in the step. So this is something that we in a sense, something that you look for, in a sense, like if I'm out of the ground there, or if I'm actually in the ground through that step, that makes a big difference. Whether I want two legs to be in the ground at that point of contact. Well, that's the ideal situation, right? But in this case, the leg that's applying the pressure is the back leg. What becomes the back leg? So the pressure is basically, how do I sink into that front leg, and then as it goes, how do I maintain the weight through that and stay in the ground with it, basically. So you keep the root basically tapped in a sense. Yeah. That's great. So we'll add a little bit of movement to this. This is a really nice one. This is from a katatedor, so like a grip to the wrist here. This is also a nice one you can take into movement. And later you can also take this against a strike, or like a strike coming in. Now the obvious way in a sense is like I just come to the side and try and go directly into it. But the other way, if you think about this, is if someone was to grab, is I roll around here and then I open it with a strike, right? So this is a nice one because again, it's increasing the complexity of the movement, makes it harder to maintain the weight through it. So as you do it, if you think basically about Taina Henko, so I kind of roll into it, extend with it, and then that slide comes in this movement that way. Okay? So the first step is like that rotation, find the weight, and then roll and open back. And then the second part is that way. So it's just the kind of the lead in to it, which is Taina Henko. Rolling and then opening that out. So rolling, open. So and also if you think about complexity of movement now and working in movement, then the front foot now is doing a lot of flexible work in terms of using the ground. So the front foot through the rotation is quite dense, heavy, but flexible. That's still really kind of a key kind of quality shift in terms of what you're looking for. Can't be kind of rigidly connected to the ground in the movement. Yeah, Yeah. So,
I seem to have lost sound. Has everyone else lost sound?
I can hear you, Kath, but not Michael.
Michael is muted.
Oh, yeah. I think you're muted.
Michael is-
Michael.
okay, sorry, I'm muted. I'm sorry. I'm totally muted. Sorry, that's my fault. So you got a total. Okay, I'll do that again. But watch it. The natural way, in a sense, is like go through rotation, spiral work. So you've got two things. You've got rotation, you've got an opening, and you've got extension, right? Now, if I don't have the ground in there, I slowly creep into being really out of the ground. Right? So the whole structure gets raised, and especially rotation work, as you go into it, it's going to start to pull you out of the ground. So think of that, the first step in this, that sense of reaching to the ground. And now think of this as a downward spiral, right? With an extension out from that down path, right? So think as you go into this, that initiation is down, the spiral, and then you hold or you increase the sense of that spiral coming down, and then the open down, and then this out comes from this down. Right? And this is classic like tension area work. This is where most of the 𝘥𝘰𝘦𝘴 take the kind of the feeling from. So that sense of grounding of the earth, ground the earth, and the heaven which is coming out response from it. But the grounds where we can bar, so that's really you want to look for. Think of this like downward heavy spiral with the extension out, so that the extension's like a kind of branch out of the root. Oh. So just take this to one deeper in a sense. So you've got this as an uprooting movement, like this. Now think of this really as a 𝘥𝑰𝑦𝑢, which will be like tension, which means you're this hand's raising up and then it's spiraling down into the ground this way. So if you think about all the times we do this movement, that movement and this, where the hand's now going into the spiral. The difference between what we're doing in the beginning, in a sense, is like this hand's doing that, right? And this hand's doing that. In this case, this hand's doing that. So it's really rolling down. Now, this is a very easy position to lose the elbow and the shoulder in the weight. So that's why I go to force with this, because I get to that point and the elbow's stuck out the ground. And then my only solution is to add more strength into it. But the shoulder and the elbow are actually in a very weak position. Right? So think as you go into this. Now, you can do this in two steps. You can either do the basic, which is to like just come out, reach up, and then roll down with it. In which case, I'm really going to spread into the legs also. So you end up with a slightly deeper sense. to accommodate that kind of pressure winding in down. Right? So you can either do this like tension angle, and then rolling, extending that, and that sense of like reaching down to the ground with both hands in. Yeah. So in this case, like both hands are going to kind of reach to the ground in the end. You've got that upwards component now. You're rolling down. Yes. Nice. Yeah, good. Good. So, okay, good. Great. Good. Okay, take this now. If the best way to think about this now, or tension as the attack, or tension as the response. Think of the attack now that both hands are being held, right? So both wrists are being grabbed. Now again, you can do this with the basic one, but think about adding the rotation work into it again. So you've got the idea now. There's a kind of quality in the body in this case, which is like a winding up of the body. You wind the body through this movement, and then I kind of open it out, and then I find the extension in the ground this way. So there's like in a sense, you like coil the body through this motion, and then you open, spread the body out. So you can, the footwork's important with this, but actually it's with a sense that you can kind of coil the body and then open, extend it, coil the body and open and extend it. So it's coming from, in a sense, of this kind of motion, which is like coil, open, expand, coil, open, and expand. So apart from it being an external movement, is the sense of you're rotating through space and finding the ground. It's also got this component, which is what's happening relationally between those parts of the body. In this case, hips, hands, hips to feet, elbows to forearm, all these kind of rotate the relationships in the body. Yes. Yeah. So. Okay, last few minutes, just play with the jo, whatever weapon you've got. You can do this with a bokken, or I'm going to do this with a jo, but actually it doesn't really matter what you do. Just play with this. Warm it up a little bit. Okay, great. Play now with this. So it's like you've got the same relationship with the hands. You can do either hand way. It doesn't actually matter in a sense. But think about this same kind of motion now, that you're spreading down the weapon. And then again, if we go back to that sense of this one, you've got the sense that you can find that pathway up with that pressure point, or you can equally, in a sense, continue that and let it come back down with it. But just play with basically keeping the connection with the hand and the sense that you're using the stick now to just give you feedback on that sense of the kind of internal aspect of it, which is this part of the body kind of opening up. And again, you can take this to, we'll take this also, you can do it in movement later, but the key part in this is that sense that this relationship can change down through it. So all this kind of work that we were doing before, like this, is really the same kind of thing. This, but in this case, just working with that sense that you can have open, spread, and then roll through it that way. I'm just using the gel for a little bit of feedback. Good. Great. Great. Yeah, great. That's it. Great. So there's we'll go to something slightly different, which is again related, but there's so many like it's impossible not to do this movement in terms of like Aikido techniques. So you can actually go anywhere with it in the system, and this kind of work will come up. So, but the main thing to think about here, if you one of the best examples like is this 𝘱𝘰𝘪𝘏𝗧 work, where you're kind of bringing the hand up to the head. And then you're using that movement to either take like a nikkyo or a nikkyo rolling in, or open it out into a sankya. So the key thing to work on now is just feel that you're going to use the one hand to take the weapon to the jo, and just play with this hand and its ability to like shoot up and down the weapon. Now just play, if you're looking just experimentation, just play with the tip of the weapon and the angle that it's pointing out at. So we'll play with one thing here, which you can also do with. You've got the hand in contact here, and you've got it in contact with the back hip as well, right? You could also do it across the body, but in this case, we'll keep it simple. Now, just play with that hand's ability to connect down this line, and again, into the foot. So in a way, you've got to split your brain a little bit with your mind. This hand's going to direct and move the jo, and this hand's just going to kind of lead and follow, right? So this hand's kind of not looking to separate the jo, but just find a new angle for it. It can be up, it can be back, or it can be wherever. And this hand just looks to connect into that movement. So this thing does that. Now, this is quite easy to do in a sense that I'm doing it myself. I've got to imagine a little bit like that's happening. That wants to split, and I want to just lead and follow it. Lead and follow it. Lead and follow it. Lead and follow it. That's it. And just play with. And you can play with both sides. Switch it up as often. Get the feeling that hip's really, the hip and the hand are really working together to roll, and that hand can really play with rolling and holding. So let's see if we can work on quality now. That's it. Okay, great. So we'll play with two qualities. The first one, think about cutting with it. So if you think about sword work, now this is a class, if you like Iaido or anything, if you think about like the drawing of the sword out from the bell, right? So this kind of motion where you're kind of spreading and splitting the body. Think about all these movements again. When we do KOKYU work, you do ikkyo or anything. Think about this as a kind of cutting motion of the little finger down the hand into the forearm, right, through the elbow. So that whole underside of the body, of inside the arm, basically slicing constantly. Now you can slice in this case that way out, You can slice this way up. You can slice this way with this motion. Yeah? But just play with that sense. Now, everything that we're doing, in a sense, has that quality again. So you can really work any movement, and you will find that that relationship's always kind of going to be working. But that sense of the hand, the forearm spiral as a kind of slicing movement. Yes. Great. And the last minute, play with the other thing, which is the other quality is like a folding quality, which we do a lot, but it's using the elbow and using that same mobility and using the elbow to basically fold the connection. Now I use this, if you think about this, we use this all the time. If you think that you have a force coming into the body, like a strike or a yokomen or whatever, or a push, and I use it to, as I maintain the extension, fold the structure around it. Right? So think now about the 𝘗. This is the last minute or so. Think about the 𝘗 actually coming into the body. So it's like the 𝘗's kind of attacking you. So I'm generally going to do this with a backhand because it's a bit easier to cross with the connection. But the key with this is that you've got the blades up, the elbow's able to kind of fold and absorb. So this comes in and the elbow can fold and absorb. So it's really using actually the opposite motion of it. If you think about this as an extension and this as a folding or a closing, it's really working on the same mobility pathway. And the key with this is like elbow mobility, or the ability to mobilize the elbow and fold it. Yeah. And again, you can kind of imagine any kind of technique or any kind of movement. But that's the kind of folding of the structure. And then the last 20 seconds or so, just play with both together, right? So both kind of, sometimes you're folding and sometimes you're cutting. But actually you're doing a little bit of both in the folding. In the folding you're cutting, and in the cutting you're also kind of folding the structure as well. But it's always a kind of play between the two, especially if you're going into, in a sense, a kind of freestyle, or more of a freestyle movement practice. And the elbows with the ability to connect to the hip. So you can also do this really slow and controlled. You just kind of roll with it. Yeah. Exactly. Nice. Yeah. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Roll and roll. So, right. Nice. Yeah, great. Okie dokie. Great. And again, the key thing to look for with this, we're kind of talking about. The key thing is, especially if I go into this with freestyle. Now, I'm thinking freestyle in the case that someone's attacking me, like with strikes or pushes or something. The moment I do this kind of stuff, and my body's out of the ground, and I'm done. Right? It's kind of over. I'd be like overwhelmed. I'll probably get taken to the ground and then go somewhere else. But the ability to kind of do that with a sense that I'm actually in the ground already, I can really kind of roll and mobilize with it. That's the kind of skill you're looking for. But it's the stuff we do all the time with the weapon work. It's the skills that we're working with the weapons. And again, cutting and folding and all that stuff comes from use of weapon. All right, we will stop there. Okay, great. Finally, some light. Okay, great. Some light. Great. Domo arigato gozaimashita.
Domo arigato gozaimasu.
Great. Okay, cool.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Hopefully we'll iron out the kinks.
Thank you, Michael.
Great. Thank you very much. And
Enjoy the kids.
And
I will.
hopefully see you